Ladies and gentlemen, welcoming you all to International Affairs. This is being broadcasted from the SATV's Gulshan studio. I'm, of course, your host, Shamsul Rampanthu, with the latest updates from around the world. Before I begin today's discussion, let me introduce my panel. Here in the studio, I have Mr. Nazir Ahmad, who is, of course, the president of Giving Works. It's a strategic consultant firm with prominent U.S. and international ties to various organizations. I welcome you on to the program. Alongside, we will have Norman Floyd Barnes, our geopolitical correspondent from Washington District of Columbia. I want to begin with Norman. There are certain updates that I want to share. One that includes the talks in Qatar. Qatar is reportedly saying that there is positive progress as the U.S. and Iran conclude indirect technical talks in Doha. This is, of course, related to issues in the Memorandum of Understanding, which was signed earlier on in June 17th. Of course, Tehran is saying they're going to establish a communication channel with Washington as we progress on towards this month. We know there's 4th of July happening. It's a public holiday in the United States. In contrast to this, in Iran, we see it's going to be the date of when the funeral processions are going to take place for the late Supreme Leader. I want to get a know-how of all this international geopolitical gossips that we're hearing from Norman. What are some of the updates that you have as well from your desk? A very good morning to you.
Good morning. I'm coming in now. The holidays are coming up here in the United States swiftly. We have a heat wave that's hitting us right now. And the talks in regarding the war in Iran with the U.S. are continuing to move forward. They're talking at a small level. They're scheduled to have additional meetings. They had meetings yesterday, separate meetings. Iran had their own meeting in Qatar, and the United States had their own separate meetings. And they're scheduled to meet again once, I think, after this weekend, to meet again to continue the conversations about where we go in terms of dealing with the end of this war. So that is the crux of it. Nothing, no new breakthroughs, nothing earth-shattering. It's just basically more conversations at a low level, technical, talking about the technical stuff that is going to be necessary to make this, I guess, war come to a halt. I don't anticipate any type of breakthrough in the next several weeks. Just conversations, talking to figure out what's going on. The biggest thing is that we don't have another incident over there regarding our military. Iran and Israel are still perching for a conflict. We noticed this morning that Russia had a large attack in Ukraine,
Right.
killing a lot of people. So they seem to be escalating that confrontation. That has a bleed over effect into the area of the Middle East also. So what affects in that, anything happening in that region right now has a cascading effect over into this peace conversation. So how I look at it, we got one big hot mess in the whole region. And basically any small incident can trigger a backlash, a response. Because right now we're talking about peace, but we also preparing for war.
Right. As I make of the statements from Norman Floyd Barnes, talking about peace but giving heed to more confrontation, regardless it be in the Ukraine, Russia, if not in the Middle East. I want to turn to the studio with Nazir Ahmed. You know that for a fact, we see the timings of these international arena events coming to play. The National Parliament Speaker of Bangladesh is going to be in the funeral of the late Khamenei in Tehran. Of course, it will span on to other cities that would be observing this massive event. On the other side, there is a national holiday in the U.S. as the United States Supreme Court and Donald Trump does not meet eye to eye on certain issues, especially the Birthright Citizenship Act It's giving mixed signals from various sides. Of course, the Democrats has condemned the U.S. Supreme Court's decision to strip hundreds and thousands of Haitian and Syrian immigrants of a humanitarian status. I want to get your comment regarding this very issue, as well as how you see the last 3 months or so regarding the Iran war.
First of all, I was a teenager when I first came to the U.S., and I had the opportunity to attend the bicentennial celebration of the U.S. In 1976. The contrast between that and the last 50 years is incredible, because right now you have a society that is quite deeply divided, polarized, confused in a lot of ways, and it's both ripe for all kinds of exploitation of emotions, and at the same time there are also glimmers of some interesting possibilities of recreating the American dream. I think overall the country is quite cynical about the future. The president, who actually did get a popular mandate, certainly a majority of the votes, has become quite deeply unpopular, even in areas and segments of the population that where he had commanded a lot of lead. So that's one side going on. So it's a country that is not particularly resilient right now to multiple crises. And what we are finding in the U.S. from day to day is just a series of events happening, and people are just sort of dizzy in some ways. I think what has become very clear in the Iran war is that, first of all, it was a war that no one really supported, at least in the United States, in the sense that the Congress had not been consulted, precisely because the Congress would not have approved it, I think. It was a war that was sold as a quick action, and almost like a cleanup to what they had done earlier, the previous June, and it has turned out to be quite different. And I think there's a wider recognition that both the rationale and from the domestic American interest is very, very unclear.
Right.
So how does the U.S. extricate itself? And I think Donald Trump is a master of getting into things and then trying to sort of blame someone else and trying to declare victory even at the point of. Now, the talks have done two things. One is that it has actually done quite a bit in terms of bringing down the level of violence in the war itself. It has also created a new kind of, not necessarily a quagmire or a stalemate that's going to be pretty significant.
Right.
Why do I say that? Because I think Iran is in a stronger position to bargain. And there is a very likely possibility that the Donald Trump who came to, one of his big thing was that he was going to never get into a forever war. Now, this may actually descend into a forever talks. Right. I don't expect a lot of movement in the near future on the basic issues.
Right. Very excellent remarks regarding the Middle Eastern situation. As you said, it's not an endless war any longer. It's an endless show of talks, and how this technical, if not direct, if not indirect, these are terms to define the kind of situation that these people are actually going through. Excellent remarks. I also want to follow up with Norman Floyd Barnes. I'm sure you were hearing some of these issues. We know for a fact that Donald Trump's campaign promise was not to initiate in a long-term war, as stated here by Mr. Nazir Ahmed. But right now it's a long-term technical talk, if not indirect talk. Just want to get your comment. The midterms are going to take place in November of this year. And before that, how does Donald Trump plan on keeping his campaign promises and also keeping some of the promises he had stated of not going into war and, of course, trying to make America great again? But in this case, we see that the Iran war has turned the livelihoods of Americans very bitter, with a higher amount of gasoline prices that have surged in the last 3 months. I want to get a remark from you. How are you seeing the future of these two sides as well as the midterms?
Yes, as we approach our midterms, we are in a stagnated state right now in regards to how we exercise our foreign policies. and more so the America Great policy. The president, yes, has promised not to get into a forever war, but we are in a forever conversation ceasefire. Congress will not approve, give him his approval for a war. He knows that. So he has a window of 60 days to get in, to start something, and 60 days to go into a ceasefire or a negotiation period. So I suspect that we will continue to have these type of iterations continue at least through the rest of the year. There'll always be a reason to go back to do something, to have a military response, a small scale military response outside of having an outright congressional approved war. Uh, this is something that is a loophole in the process where a president can respond to some type of aggression, but there's a limited period of time. You have to report it back in 45 days on that they about process of doing that, and they have a period of 60 days before he can get approval. Anything after 60 days have to get approval from Congress. So basically, what we're seeing now is that timetable being utilized to exercise some effect. Hopefully, he could have his hope was to the administration to have a situation where they can shock and awe like they did in Venezuela.
Right.
Unfortunately, Iran and the Middle East situation is a little more technical than that. And now the issue with the bargaining chip of the Strait has come up, has put a real problem into this policy and procedure on doing things. So in addition, we're still dealing with our Ukraine and Russia, and we're still dealing with the situation in Palestine with Israel. In addition, now we have Israel requesting more funding and more support and more involvement in terms of dealing with Ukraine. So all these things have to be balanced for the administration going through. We have a midterm elections coming up. Uh, the United States military aggression war a response is not being approved by the United States people. Congress is not going to, like I said, is not going to give the approval because the citizens will not allow that to happen. Uh, while we're doing this, we're spending more and more money, and that money is coming from the tables and the pocketbooks of Americans. So now, with that said, we are now going into a situation where we're midterms and all this stuff coming about. We have the president has a new Air Force One. The president is now a super billionaire. Trillionaires are coming up. All these people are making big money. He's making big money. And now the situation is going to be turning. It's like, hey, you're making big money, but we're not benefiting from that. So where are we going? So now he has a situation, in addition to we're in an endless war, we're into a situation he promised we're not into, but you're making money and we are not. We are not benefiting from that. So that's going to have a turn, that's going to have a dramatic effect on the Republican Party, on his administration. And as we move forward through the next chapter, we will see a shift and change in how Congress and how the United States deal with that. So it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be a situation where we will. Uh, I don't see where we're going to get out of the Middle East situation because it's too global and it
Right.
involves a lot of stuff that pertains to the Americans and their pocketbooks. And so until we address that issue, and not just Americans' pocketbook, the globe, the whole world is affected by this. So his plan is to profit, make money. He makes money, like you said. His thing is to make money, make investments. So we have this bottleneck problem in the Middle East. He's never going to get where he needs to be in terms of his personal growth and development. So his inclination is to get this conflict out the way so I can go back to do what I do best, making money, investment, making money. I can't do that if we got a stranglehold on the energy crisis and the cash flow and the whole economy is done. It does not meet his overall objectives and goal. So we're seeing these concessions that's being brought together, it's all part of moving his agenda forward. His administration agenda, his personal agenda moving forward has to be resolved. This issue is causing his empire not to expand in the manner in which he wants. So he's doing everything he can to basically push forward to a cessation of this hostilities so that we can get back on the economic track where he can start making profits. So that's where we're at
Right.
right now. The people are seeing that basically, hey, you're doing this for your own self. You're not doing it for us. And yes, you say you're doing this, you're making these profits, but we're feeling everything you do in the pocketbook. We're losing. We're not making any progress. Gas going up, food going up, and the price is going to continue to rise because Iran now realize we have an Achilles heel. We are hungry for money and profit, and we can control that narrative. If they can control the American, they can control America.
Right. Very interesting and excellent remarks from Norman Floyd Barnes regarding how the U.S. president is benefiting from holding this chair of the U.S. president POTUS. Coming to the studio with Nazir Ahmed. Very shortly, I want to pass you a question. As Norman was stating, how the president has soared, his wealth has soared ever since he has taken the office. The financial disclosure shows his two premier resorts delivering record-breaking surges in revenue. When in comparison with the metrics of the people, it is very different. We don't see any other president of the past having this kind of record. Of course, people are going to the Mar-a-Lago estate is because they want the proximity to the president very closely. This is stated by Robert Weissman, the co-president of the Public Citizen, a consumer rights advocacy group. My question to you, this president, before becoming the president, he was known as a businessman, as a business tycoon, who is now in charge of the United States of America. His very first move was tariffing the entire world into one corner. 70 or so nations, more or less in the Asian continent, were tariffed. And then, of course, this had to come down to a decision of the courts once again. So I want to get your comment. There is huge disparity as the people face more higher prices in the consumer level, while the president is seen having more profits in his own business tenures.
I think that's exactly right. If you think about it, first of all, it is estimated that he has made about between 1.1 to $2 billion, particularly a lot with the crypto investments that he made, and where at least 2/3 of the people who invested are actually underwater. So that even people who are diehard Trump supporters who had invested in the Trump coins have really not done very well, while the president and his own inner circle have done quite well. But also there's a broader issue. One of the first things, in addition to setting up the tariffs, is that you had a massive tax relief for about $4.5 trillion that went mostly to the very wealthy. At the same time, we had about a $1.1 trillion of cuts in social services, education.
SNAP benefits as well.
Which is very, very poor, so cutting massive benefits. And the most conservative estimate is going to add about $5 trillion to the deficit of the U.S.
Right.
So that's massive. At the same time, I'm not sure it matters that much in the current narrative, because in the U.S. there are people who are obviously opposed to the president, but there are a lot of people who are deeply supportive of the president.
All right.
And I think I would not underestimate the ability, even in the midterms coming up, with the Republicans who actually have a big structural advantage because of the gerrymandering, and now with the recent Supreme Court decision allowing the party to spend a lot of money, it's opening up the floodgates. And his ability to shift topics. So as soon as people get honed into something else, that disappears from the media. And that's where also the media influence that this president has been massive, both by scaring the media and by
utilizing the media as well.
Very, very much. And also a lot of the media has been taken over by his allies. You look at the whole Paramount, CBS, CNN, all of those are going in. That Fox News has always been there. Then you have TikTok being taken over by Larry Ellison. You have X, or former Twitter, being controlled by Elon Musk. So within that, the whole information ecosystem, there's going to be a big challenge.
Right. Excellent remarks once again by Nazir Ahmed as we predict the outcomes of the midterms and how these two sides are going to go into the midterm elections. It's time to take a short commercial break. Afterwards, we will look at some of the stories coming out from the Ukraine-Russia conflict as well. Ladies and gentlemen, do stay tuned for more on this very program. Hello and welcome to International Affairs, and my name is Shamsul Alam Panto.
I don't see an easy resolution to this because every slight deviation from the plan,
opening an open war conflict with them,
testing nuclear missiles,
Russia's announcement of these supposedly successful testing,
special and exclusive footage that is being played on SATV's screen,
Really coming to terms with Hamas.
Damage estimated between this entire issue.
President Trump is expected to hold bilateral talks,
preserving biodiversity and tackling climate change.
We cannot protect the planet before we negotiate peace.
Where is it going? Is it understanding the needs of its people before the needs of this global world?
For China to come to agreement,
They will face better projects.
with President Xi of China and President Lee of South Korea.
Trump's White House that is in favor of these things.
simply not enough action being taken to address the problem of fossil fuels.
What their plan initially is towards the Caribbean, a place that has been met with two types of disasters.
Bangladeshi students at the same level of opportunity internationally and domestically.
International Affairs. Watch every Sunday to Thursday at 2 p.m. only on SATV and SATV Digital. Hello and welcome to International Affairs, and my name is Shamsul Alam Panto.
I don't see an easy resolution to this because every slight deviation from the plan,
opening an open war conflict with them,
Testing nuclear missiles,
Russia's announcement of these supposedly successful testing,
special and exclusive footage that is being played on SATV's screen,
really coming to terms with Hamas.
Damage estimated between this entire issue.
President Trump is expected to hold bilateral talks,
preserving biodiversity and tackling climate change.
We cannot protect the planet before we negotiate peace.
Where is it? Welcoming all our viewers back on International Affairs. Of course, I am joined in the studio with Nazir Ahmed as well as Norman Floyd Barnes through Zoom. I want to take a drastic shift away from the topics that we were definitely discussing. We must look at the Ukraine war. Russian glide bombs killed 2 people and injured at least 15 in southeastern Ukrainian city of Zaporizhia just on Tuesday. And not only so, we see that more than a dozen people were killed in a major air attack on Kiev overnight as of last night. According to the city mayor, we know that the Ukrainian Air Force is stating that the Russians have launched 500 drones and dozens of missiles towards the country in a massive combined strike. Well, this time the combined attempt was all attacking and attempting to breach Kiev's security forces. I want to take a comment from Norman Floyd Barnes. We know for a fact that this has been the long-running confrontation of the decade. Needless to say, we also have to comment regarding territory. Much of the world and its confrontations between various sides is stemming from territorial advances. We can look at the Gaza war. It is once again territory. The Strait of Hormuz, once again territory. And in this recent times between Russia and Ukraine, it is definitely territorial advances in the eastern Ukraine region. I want to get a comment from Norman Floyd Barnes. What is your assessment? No side has been able to bring these two nations into negotiations, unless these two nations, sometimes they have a halt and a pause for 2 to 3 days, as we've seen in May because of their Victory Day celebrations. But it has been ongoing. The hatred still seems to continue. I want to get a comment from you. When do you think that these two nations will come to the table, like we've seen in the US and Iran talks? Norman.
Thank you again for that question. My forecast is that we're going to see more of the same continue. Putin has announced that this is an endless war for him. He will commit. They have committed almost. The numbers are almost up to 500 million. 500,000 of his soldiers has been killed during this conflict. So there's a large commitment of his population to this war. I do not see him walking away. I do not see the Russian government saying, "Hey, we had enough and let's go home." They are in it for the long haul. They have the resources. They continue to utilize human life. It appears to them that it's not an issue. They probably go up to 1 million if they have to. At the same time, the war of attrition, Ukraine is basically responding back with support of the Western world, United States, Europe, in terms of response and holding off this situation. As long as this war goes on, the defense agencies, the defense companies, the people making money are going to make profits. And some of them profits goes to, well, we just stated our president is making money. And don't be surprised if he is profiting personally, his foundations, off of this war. Long as war going on, wars always made money. Peace do not make money unless there's a plan for that, development plan for that. So right now, that development plan that's supposed to happen in Gaza and hopefully supposed to happen in Ukraine has not come to the table. But more conflict. Russia has basically launched this additional drone attack inside of Ukraine. The point is to beat them down to the point where they will have to say, "Hey, I give up, I submit." Russia is not going to basically pack up his bag and go home. They have too much carnage, too much loss, too much commitment, too much invested into this situation. So we are dealing with Russia will not give up. Ukraine will not secede and give up their country. So we're going to have this stagnation that go on probably longer than we expected to go on. I don't see any type of resolution to that situation this year. Nothing has indicated any type of movement towards any type of negotiation or discussion. We just see more and more, I attack you, you attack me. I attack Ukraine, Ukraine send drones into Russia, back and forth. People losing lives, drones production goes up, profit goes to someone. So we got to look at who's making the money off of this. That's what we need to look at. Who's benefiting from this? And right now is not Ukraine.
Right. I thank Norman Floyd Barnes' excellent commentary regarding the Ukraine-Russia war. As of recent days, we see that Russia is attacking the capital Kiev from multiple angles. Turning to the studio with Nazir Ahmed, I want to ask you, as Norman was stating, there is someone who benefits from having this kind of war ongoing. It is definitely pointed towards the military-industrial complex, as we've seen them, or companies that initiate themselves in weaponry, creation of weapons. And in this recent attack, we see that much of this drone and missile strike barrage was ballistic, according to the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. He's saying that much of these missiles and drones were ballistic. It is creating the intensity for the war to prolong. I also want to ask you, if Ukraine is the next centric for war, it is Europe once again being rattled by the two sides. We see that Russia is facing Ukraine, and then Ukraine gathering immense support from neighboring Italy and other nations in the region. Of course, having a spat with the Polish as well as of recent, but regardless, the Ukraine is demanding support from nations which are offering their help, but there has not been any kind of reassurance in ending of this war. Just to get a comment, how are you seeing this matter?
Well, couple of dimensions to this. One is that it is true that especially after the defeat of Viktor Orban in Hungary, which was the biggest obstacle to Ukraine getting sufficient support from Europe, that has been resolved now, despite the recent differences with Poland. There is no real incentive from the commercial standpoint to sort of end the war for the reasons that Norman had pointed out very clearly. But I think one of the things that may have prolonged the war a little bit is also the mixed signals coming out of Washington, where on one hand, you saw the President Trump's position on Ukraine keeps on shifting from being really critical of Ukraine to supportive of Ukraine. And I would think that if I were in Russia, I would see that as an opening, right? So there hasn't been a sort of an equal force coming up and saying that, no, this war has to end. It also is a conflict of spheres, of, not just of territory, but spheres of influence. And I think from Russia's point of view, they feel, some would say legitimately, that Ukraine becoming part of NATO is really a further aggression, quote unquote, on the part of the West. So I think it's really, no one knows which way it's going to go. We also don't know how the Russian public is really feeling about this whole war at this end. I would think that, remember in Afghanistan, the official story was when the Russians had occupied Afghanistan, it was all hunky-dory. Then it turned out to be deeply unpopular to the point where Russia had to withdraw from Afghanistan. This is quite different, but I'm not sure, we don't know what the dynamics are inside the country.
And given to some of that, it is, of course, the control of the media in Russia is very tight. It's very hard to understand what the common Russians are feeling regarding this war. However, President Putin did mention very slightly that the tolls of this war is now starting to being felt by common Russian people as well. Increasingly interesting debate that is happening regarding Ukraine. I want to have a very short comment from Norman Floyd Barnes. We were doing an analysis earlier on as well on how some of the people in the eastern Ukraine region want to be called Russian or want to be a part of Russia instead of part of being Ukraine. Would you shine some light on this very mere fact that it would be better for them to be considered Russian? Of course, those people can also have the state of being anti-establishment of Ukraine itself. So how do you see this very important detail?
Well, we have issued historically that region, the eastern region, has been have deep ancestral roots into Russia. So they speak Russian. They have ties with Russian. They believe they believe they're Russians. So we have a group, a portion of land that is basically cultivated by people who have strong ties to Russia. So on the other side, we have Ukraine, who thinks that they have eminent domain, and this land they have, this country, is all of Ukraine, including the people who feel that they have Russian ties. So we are into a situation where basically it is not going to end in the manner which both parties agreed to. Even if the war stops today, the people in that region are still going to have their ties and connection with Russia. Even if the situation, let's say, Russia controls that area, we're going to have conflict with Ukraine, stating that they have stolen our land and we'll continue to fight. This is not going to end because someone says or write a note, say, hey, we're going to end this war, we're going to end this war. It's deeper than that. We're talking about tradition, family ties, and whatever. So the people on the land is going to determine how this thing goes and what in terms of how they're going to live and move forward. So we have an issue about what's going on. Do we let them go back to Russia, be part of Russia, or do they come and remain part of the Ukrainian nation? That is the big question. What do the people want? And right now there's a conflict in the country about exactly that's going on. That has been the issue about this. Russia believe that the people in that area want to be part of Mother Russia. And Ukrainians said, no, they're Ukrainians, and we will hold our sovereignty and not give anything to Russia because we don't think they deserve that. And we are a sovereign country, and you can't take land because you want to from us without a reason.
Excellent remarks once again from Norman Floyd Barnes. They have, both sides, Ukraine and Russia, have agreed to disagree on certain remarks as we were discussing them. Of course, questions of sovereignty has once again arisen because of this issue. It's time to take a commercial break. Afterwards, we shall look at some of the updates in the entertainment world. Well, I'm definitely talking about the World Cup being hosted in the United States, Mexico and Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, do stay tuned for more on this very program. Hello and welcome to International Affairs, and my name is Shamsul Alam Panto.
I don't see an easy resolution to this because every slight deviation from the plan,
Opening an open war conflict with them.
Testing nuclear missiles.
Russia's announcement of these supposedly successful testing.
Special and exclusive footage that is being played on SATV screen.
Really coming to terms with Hamas.
Damage estimated between this entire issue.
President Trump is expected to hold bilateral talks.
Preserving biodiversity and tackling climate change.
We cannot protect the planet before we negotiate peace.
Where is it going? Is it understanding the needs of its people before the needs of this global world?
For China to come to agreement,
They will face better projects.
With President Xi of China and President Lee of South Korea.
Trump's White House that is in favor of these things.
simply not enough action being taken to address the problem of fossil fuels.
What their plan initially is towards the Caribbean, a place that has been met with two types of disasters.
Bangladeshi students at the same level of opportunity internationally and domestically.
International Affairs. Watch every Sunday to Thursday at 2 p.m. only on SATV and SATV Digital. Hello and welcome to International Affairs, and my name is Shamsul Alam Panto.
I don't see an easy resolution to this because every slight deviation from the plan,
Opening an open war conflict with them.
Testing nuclear missiles.
Russia's announcement of these supposedly successful testing.
Special and exclusive footage that is being played on SATV screen.
really coming to terms with Hamas.
Damage estimated between this entire issue.
President Trump is expected to hold bilateral.
Welcoming our viewers to the very last segment of International Affairs. I am sure that we have lost the signal with Norman Floyd Barnes, who had joined us previously on this very program. I thank him. I thank his purposeful time in this very program as well for his contributions. Coming to the studio with Nazir Ahmed, as we were talking and gossiping regarding this great entertainment avenue that we know as the World Cup, hosted every 4 years in various locations around the world. However, one can definitely draw a contrast of this year's World Cup with the last World Cup that has been held in Qatar. I believe that was more inclusive of all the competing teams. Regardless, this time around, we see some of the immigration issues stemming up from the US. We can also definitely ask regarding Iran. Every now and then when they had to play a match in the US, they had to be bought in from Mexico, and then immediately after the game they had to be sent back. Some of these issues do create a discriminatory fact when it comes to the competing FIFA World Cup. And we know that Donald Trump and Gianni Infantino of the FIFA, they see eye to eye on various issues. As the United States of America progress on to the round of 16, there has been some World Cup upsets. We see Germany not being knocked out of the round of 32. So I want to ask you how you're seeing the World Cup, and what are some of the issues, how are Americans being benefited by hosting such a great event?
First of all, the opportunity to host a global event like the World Cup, and particularly...
Hello and welcome to International Affairs, and my name is Shamsul Pantha.
I don't see an easy resolution to this because every slight deviation from the plan,
Opening an open war conflict with them.
Testing between the US and China began with the ping pong game.
Right.
So, it's a table tennis that brought together. So there's a power in sports. It's the universal language, it's the universal mode of being. And certainly football, or what's called soccer in the US, is certainly an universal mode of engagement. Having said that, this has been a very unfortunate situation because an event that was meant to bring people together has actually, because of the immigration policies and all those things going on, has actually been quite divisive for a lot of people around the world. The idea that the Iranian athletes had to go back and forth because they could not stay overnight in the US while playing a game was just not a necessary thing to do.
A psychological deterrent.
Psychologically, and it does not speak well for America. Having said that, I think there is also, the good news is that, American football was really sort of located and restricted to only a small parts of the world. As cricket is also restricted to smaller parts of the world. Soccer is really an universal sport. That football is a universal sport. So I think that to the extent that Americans are getting more engaged in it, and there is some pride that comes from hosting it, even if it's an imperfect event, is something that will, I think, help change the culture. There are a lot more soccer being played, a lot more soccer teams in activity, young people are playing. My son is on the soccer team. So I think that's something that would not have existed a number of years ago. So that's a good sign. FIFA itself, in some sense, I'm not surprised with the challenges of FIFA because FIFA has been ethically challenged for a long time with the corruption, the fixing of games. And so I don't know. I would hope that at some point there will be an alternative reformist movement that will be coming in FIFA, but it seems like FIFA is really controlled not by the athletes or for the athletes, but for other purposes.
Right.
Hopefully that will change.
Definitely. I thank Nazir Ahmed for appearing on this very program, your contributions and your patience and time in international affairs. As you were saying regarding the ethical challenges of FIFA and how it should be player-centric, it is more likely advertisement-centric right now as we see the multiple companies coming in for sponsoring. Before I end the program today, it is uncannily very competitive because it is the 2nd of July 2026 and it also considered as World Sports Journalist Day. The day has been observed since the recognition of the work and contributions of sports journalists and media professionals worldwide. The main goal of this day is to increase cooperation among sports journalists around the world, improve professional standards, highlight the importance of accurate information and independent reporting. With that being stated, I want to sign out on this week's International Affairs. I shall be with you all on the next week's programs.